I wanted to remix this game because I think it's a brilliant game. And I wanted to try something new. In these other remixes, I have not yet used slice samples like these. You can get some really interesting loops going on when you have these kinds of things. This is sampled straight out of the Green Path soundtrack. Another sample I liked from Green Path was using this section of it and splitting it up. So adding those two together, it was hard for me to find a rhythm that I kind of liked, because it's not as easy to play this thing on the piano. It's mostly just looking for sliced bits of the sample that sound good. So after a while of experimenting, I found something I thought that I liked. I tried a bit of a faster beat than normal this time, and then I added something from these synths. For full context, I'm showing you the busiest part of this track so you can get an idea of everything that's going on. But each of these I arrived at on their own, and I think they sound pretty good. I also really liked the bench soundtrack, and this is when you sit on the bench in reverse. And lastly, I wanted to use more of the bench soundtrack. Finally, I really liked having the sound effects as drums. Once again, probably not a surprise. Let's just play it in layers. So Green Path first. I sat on this thing for months before I even did anything with it, as I said at the beginning. One of my other friends knew I was working on this for a long time, and I was largely done with it for quite a while. What I wanted is, with my Plunderphonics, I really want to reflect the experience of playing the game, the experience of doing it. When I play Hollow Knight in the beginning, it's really mysterious, it's kind of confusing, then I think I have my way, something's a little off, and so I wanted to reflect that. In the beginning, I had it so it would be intentionally kind of lonely. I wanted to feel alone, confused, a little unusual, uneasy. With the introduction of the bass, then I suddenly have a little more competence in understanding what's going on before it's taken away again suddenly. After I find that kind of somber feel, especially with this bench sample here, adding in these drums, I get this really clear section of, I think I know what's going on, before it's completely changed up. I think I get it, and then the next section was going to have to be its own project, because I had already exhausted one of the limits of my version here, which only lets me to have 8 tracks. I really had very little idea what I wanted to do with this sort of stuff in general, so after that first movement, I was sitting on my hands for a long time, because a lot of this stuff I really didn't know where to go with, and I didn't have much inspiration, but I knew I wanted to finish the mix. I really like the resting grounds. In that game, the sample sounds like this. I wondered if I could get some of that somber feel as well, and so when I was messing around, I took a couple of tries at it. To try to add some extra energy into that, I wanted to try to contrast it with something really extreme, but once again, this is just me messing around. With Green Path, I pulled in the fighting section, that kind of went. main problem here was that I didn't know where else to go with this, and I didn't think that it really fit the feel of the project. As much as I liked it, and I really wanted to use bits of the Soul Sanctum because I really liked the Soul Sanctum in game. And as much as I liked the idea of moving this track into the sort of fighterly experience, although I do have memories of Hollow Knight as a fighting game, and it's fairly difficult, the feeling that I remember from the game wasn't quite this, and didn't think it was a very successful movement, so I tried a few different things. Something I really liked was the City of Tears in game. So I wanted to get something really unique going with these samples. I wondered if I could perhaps stack the City of Tears and create a bit of a harmony out of them. This is a very messy project, so it's not nearly as clean as some of the other ones that I've done. With interesting layers here, I can get some different chords that create a different feeling for me. The tension in these chords is really important to me. I was really gripped by City of Tears when I first got there, especially the soundtrack. So when I'm looking for these samples that kind of move me, I wanted to reflect that tension in the chords that really drew me in the first time. These drums in particular leveraged the sounds of what I think are the Knight walking on bones, and then also the footsteps of walking in water. I think this is really going somewhere. It's really fitting. I was feeling a little more momentum having this, and so I wanted to see if I could reflect that in. As I showed you previously, I was actually able to include the resting grounds in here. This to me feels like the experience of Hollow Knight, so I wanted to really hone in on that and have everything else kind of support it. That's the point of Plunderphonics to me, and that's so cool that I can do something like this, where I pull the essence of a game out of its soundtrack and then use different samples to create something. I wanted this to feel completely different than the other sections, so I started to use a lot more soft samples. As you can see in the video, I tried to show you where these were coming from so you could best hear them. Let's hear what these Resting Ground samples sound like on their own when they're together with the City of Tears. After that, I wanted to capture the experience I had of the kind of reflective moments on the bench in the game, and I thought that would be enough and the track could be done. And then I also thought if I layered in the City of Tears on that it might be another interesting effect. The City of Tears this time, I decided to split. Together, these things give us a really interesting feel. After all of this experience, moving, somber, interesting, it all comes together.